Welcome to the Liquidity Event, a show about all things personal finance with a laser focus on taxes, financial independence, and equity compensation. Hosted by AJ and Shane of Brooklyn FI, each episode will focus on a personal finance topic, some driven by news headlines and sometimes driven by listener questions. And sometimes you'll just get two money nerds rambling about what they think is interesting. Just a quick note before we get started, this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered tax or investment advice.
Hello, and welcome to the Liquidity Event. We are your hosts, Allie Jane.
And John, pinch hitting for Shane this final episode of 2024.
Welcome, John. This is episode 129, being recorded on December 17th, airing on Friday, December 20th. A quick reminder for our listeners, we will answer your questions live on the pod if you leave us a message. That link is memo.fm/the liquidity event. It is our last show of the year of 2024. We will see you in 2025. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. No, I'm just kidding.
That's it. Thanks for coming.
That's it. That's all you get. This week, this episode, we've got lots of questions from listeners. We've got some Reddit questions we're going to go through. Yeah. We're going to talk about buying a house. We're going to talk about buying a second house. We're going to talk about what to do with a bunch of cash from a liquidity event. We're going to talk about our New Year's resolutions or planning for those. How you doing, Mr. Owens?
I'm doing well. We're landing the plane here on 2024. And so wrapping up this week, Friday's my last day in the office for the year, unless something catches on fire between then and New Year's Day. And so thankfully that we're a fully remote firm, the odds of something catching on fire and impacting everyone at the same time is pretty low. So
that's why we diversify. Yeah. We like to diversify our talent across many states.
Exactly.
If there is a hurricane... Unless it's all day after tomorrow, like no historical weather pattern can shut down Brooklyn FI.
There we go. Let's not jinx it here for 2025, but let's hope that's the case. But I'm doing well. Excited to have a little bit of time off, spend some time with family, reflect a little bit on 2024, and then get ready for the new year. What about you? You're in Palm Springs. It looks like, right?
I'm in Palm Springs. Yes, just chilling here in my office with Grandpa, Murray Grossman in the back. That is that portrait. For those of you watching a video, it's beautiful here. It's a little chilly in the mornings. I was wearing my wool coat this morning.
What's chilly in Palm Springs? Remind me.
Like 45, 50.
Okay.
It's desert. I mean, it's cold. It's if the sun's down, it's cold. If the sun's out, it's hot. That's the vibe.
That's it.
I have an exciting announcement.
Let's
I have a new coffee shop crush.
Oh, wow. It sounds serious.
It is very serious. She complimented my coat this morning, and I said, thank you so much. And I said, my name is AJ, and she put a little smiley face on my coffee cup.
Smiley face on there?
So we're dating now. Anyway.
Wow. That's very exciting. She does that to like 400 people every day, by by just so you know.
Okay.
Just so you feel good about that.
Actually, that's not true. Anyway. Palm Springs is a very male-heavy community.
Fair.
Fair
enough. Definitely a vibe.
Which is why when you meet... Anyway. All right, let's get into it, folks. We're not here to talk about crushes, even though that's probably what you actually want to hear about. All right, let's go to our friends at Reddit. This comes from the Rich People Personal Finance Forum. John, do you have this question actually pulled up? I don't have the full question.
I don't have the full question either.
The Reddit question asks, how much house can we afford? What should I do with a major influx of cash? What are the key considerations? How much should I look to save, invest, spend? If I do want to buy a house, how much to put down as a down payment? What are the tax implications I should consider? Should I look at net worth or monthly income? Okay, so basically the gist of this question is, I had a big capital injection. This could be through an exit from a company you work for. This could be an inheritance. This could be, we see this a lot, sale of a primary home in a divorce. Yeah. Hey, you had this great asset that you shared. You had to split it. What do we do with a quote unquote big capital injection? Let's define big, right? What are we talking here?
I think it depends on where you're in the country. I'd say at least 500,000, but probably north of $1 million, perhaps. That's kind of where my head goes. What about you?
Yeah, let's say that. Let's say we're talking about $500,000 and up. Hope it's more. Would love it for and if it's less, I think you can also apply the principles we're going to talk about.
It's relative,
it's lower. Right?
It's relative, right?
Totally.
But I think $500,000 plus capital injection comes on in. I think first thing
What's the first thing you do?
Well, the first thing I do, if I'm being rational, is take a step back.
This is the liquidity event. We're not rational.
This is the liquidity event. Yeah, whatever. What do you want to do? What do you want to card. Get those credit card points. Anyway, I listen. I know what's going on. The first thing we do is I say you take a step back, right? Because obviously this is some very significant financial change that you are going through, right? If you have this big windfall and it's changing your life. And so when that happens, you got to pause. You got to take a look at what's important to you, and then navigate from there. You don't want to move too quickly when you have a big capital injection. What do you think, AJ?
So John, you just completely cut out. So all I heard was, what do you think, AJ? So I'm going to assume that you said something smart, and I'm just going to keep moving forward. And if that got cut out, whatever. The first thing, when something big happens, I like to celebrate within reason, right? So that's probably for me, it's about experience. So it's probably going to be a trip. Maybe it's an incredible meal. Maybe it's taking 10 friends out to dinner to a restaurant that no one would be, excited about paying for, but I'm happy to share the wealth and the love. Maybe there's a nice coat or piece of jewelry for myself, of course. For me, the only thing I spend money on is golf these days, so probably a bucket list golf trip. So to me, first step, celebrate, right? A small amount. Please do not go out and buy a $100,000 watch. We can talk about that. Don't do that, please. It's just not a good idea. You have these feelings, you have these endorphins. Don't make the big decisions. We always say
exactly. That's what I said, by the way, when I cut out. I was saying pause and take a step back.
Great. Honestly, John, the first step is, if you don't have a financial advisor already, find someone. Or find someone who trust. It doesn't have to be an advisor. Maybe it's a trusted friend. Maybe it's a lawyer. Maybe it's just someone who can kind of ground you a little bit. Hopefully you're discussing this with your partner, your spouse, your family, whoever are going to be the stakeholders, whoever's going to potentially benefit from this, right? First step, little celebration. To me, next step is make sure, figure out how much actual liquid cash you want to have. Which is kind of circular because it's going to be related to am I about to buy a big house? But I do just think having a number in mind, maybe you already have one. I have a number in mind that just makes me feel good. I have that amount of money in a high yield savings account at a separate bank from where my checking account is. So that number is probably going to get bigger now that you have more money. So just a good baseline to have.
Yeah, I think those are key considerations. I think the other thing is start to figure out how much of this influx of cash is actually yours, right? If this is a taxable event from a sale, perhaps, if this is a windfall that you need to pay tax on, then a big chunk of this might not actually be your money.
Sure. Yeah, tax projection, super important. How much is actually going to go to, how much needs to be withheld. Don't make any rash decisions. So big amount comes in. This question is really about, should I buy a house? How big of a house should I buy? How much house can I afford? I don't like putting down more than 20%. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. If you cannot afford the monthly payment minus 20% of a down payment, that's a good rule of thumb, right? Obviously, you can go higher if you have to. There are certain areas of the country that are very desirable where you're going to have to go higher. But I think a good rule of thumb is, okay, great, you have this influx of cash, but on your current income, could you afford the monthly mortgage, utility, tax, property tax, all that jazz, have your emergency fund for when the hot water heater breaks, etc.? Could you afford that now? Now, of course, we have this influx of cash, so we have some levers to pull. So could we put down a 40% down payment and then make that monthly payment more affordable? Yes, of course we can do that. But I think it is a good baseline is, 20% down, great, I have the down payment, I have the cash. Can this fit into my current lifestyle? Considering this windfall could make me financially independent, right? If we invest this money well, and you're in your early 30s, you have a $500,000 liquidity event, let's put that in the market. Chances are, depending on what your lifestyle is, I can promise that you can retire a lot earlier than your friends.
Yeah, exactly. And it has the ability to compound and to do quite well for you over the course of time. And I think there's this dynamic of how much house can I afford versus how much house should I buy, and how much house makes sense for my goals. And you got to navigate. Those numbers can look very different, right? Yeah. There are folks that could, in theory, afford to buy. If let's say they have $1 million liquidity event, let's say they've really solid earnings, they may be able to buy a $3 or $4 million home, but the carrying costs associated with that doesn't align with their goals. The transaction costs, they're not going to stay there for several years, are all big speed bumps. They're all kind of big red flags that are out there waving, saying, hey, maybe slow down a little bit here. Maybe this doesn't make sense today based on what you've been talking about.
Yeah, and I think that's what happens, right? It's this keeping up with the Johnsons idea, which is, hey, I have this liquidity event. Maybe especially if you work for a company, your 10 closest friends at work probably also had an awesome liquidity event. Maybe they're off buying $3 and $4 million houses. You feel like you need to keep up. But what if you bought the $1.5 million house or the $2 million house that we know you can absolutely afford? Now you have optionality, right? What I hate about people who come into money suddenly, right? Sudden money, whether that's a lottery ticket or what have you, is you feel this pressure that you have to do something big. You have to make a big change. When in reality, it's the little changes, the little lifestyle improvements that are actually going to make the biggest difference long term. And I think that's what we talk about a lot with our clients at Brooklyn FI is like, great, you just went through this insane liquidity event. Remember that upstate house you wanted to buy last year? Let's buy it. You can absolutely afford it. Let's not go shopping for something 3 times as expensive just because we now have the cash. Like, let's invest that cash. Let's give you optionality. Let's give you financial independence a lot faster than you thought was possible. So, this idea of net worth, like, it's like numbers are all about like benchmarks, right? Like, great, I'm worth $1 million now. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to keep in mind on the home purchase piece, on the kind of keeping up with the Joneses dynamic of it, perhaps, and do I run upstate and do I buy something quickly? I can buy something that's a few $1 million, all those sorts of things, right? We need to be mindful that these are huge financial decisions that you're making. And if you rush them, you're probably going to make an inefficient choice. And I think, we all know the person who had the big liquidity event and did not change a damn thing about their entire life. They kept everything the same. They are still in their rent-controlled apartment that costs $1,500 a month. They, still drive their beater car, whatever it is. They're not changing anything, okay? And you might look at them and be like, wow, this person's nuts. They haven't changed anything about their lifestyle, anything, even though they have all this wealth, okay? And then, the other person who, made $500,000 in their liquidity event and spent $700,000 because of it. Both of those are extreme cases. Both of those likely don't maximize your happiness, your utility, that sort of thing. It's finding that happy medium, right? Of understanding, I can do all of this. Is that really going to make me happy, though? Does that really make sense for my long-term finances? Or am I going to end up in a situation where I'm actually under more financial stress and pressure later on than I was before this because I used this and now have a big mortgage payment and now have all this stress that I didn't need to fret about before?
Yeah, and I think a lot of times people look at a liquidity event as their ticket out of the workplace or out of the exiting, we call it the Texit here, exiting the stressful tech job that pays you very well, but you're on call all the time. You run big teams, it's hard for you to take true vacation. And we talk about like getting off the hamster wheel. Well, what we see happen sometimes is, okay, great, you had the liquidity event. Now you've inflated your lifestyle so much that you've now tied yourself to a situation where you have to make $500,000 a year just to meet your basic living costs.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You're in a situationship with your employer, basically.
Oh God.
It's it's maybe not good for the long term. It might not be healthy, but getting out of it's a little bit hard to untangle.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, and you're like, what am I to you? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But I need you. It's very tricky.
So
it's very tricky.
I mean, this happens all the time. And again, like we're talking about a big liquidity event, but this could also be, what if it's $20,000? And what if $20,000 could be, do I make payments on my student loans? Do I pay off my credit card debt, et cetera? So like the best like general advice we can give you is take a step back, talk to someone who knows what they're doing, who can walk you through it. Yeah. Don't rush into anything. Rush into something, great, go out to dinner, go on a trip, buy something, buy a little thing that's, less than 1% of the whole.
I was gonna say, let's use, is it a couple percent? Is it 1 or 2% of it?
I think 2% to just be crazy. Do whatever you want. Yeah. I don't care.
Yep. Set it on fire if you want to.
Great. Yeah, or give it away. That's an option too. I'm willing to be negotiated up to 5% for fun bullshit. But again, if we're making a rash, quick decision, like let's delay that a little bit. Let's think about it. A car is a good
make sure we're willing to commit to that. In essence. Yep. And I think, the other thing, AJ, is that this is an example of I have a major influx of cash that comes in. I need to know to do that. But a lot of people, what they're experiencing is not a major influx of cash today, but a major a rolling influx of cash, a rolling liquidity event, right? If my equity is going to be worth X amount of, my company stocks are doing well, my equity is going to be worth X amount of dollars, that's going to pay out over the next 2 years, I'm going to make an additional $800,000, is something we hear from folks sometimes, right? Even after taxes, right? So I don't have all the money to spend today. And there's no, guarantee's not a word in my vocabulary. It can change, but if things work out the way they are, this could be a lot of money. And how do you navigate that? That is another tricky thing to navigate, because it's like, ooh, can I go buy this thing that I can't afford today, but I can if this continues to vest? And if this stays worth this
But what if the stock price dips? And to me, that's even scarier, because you're adjusting your lifestyle. You get used to it. It's like, it's a drug, right? You get used to that drip, that morphine drip, literally.
It's a roller coaster.
Equity compensation. Yeah. And it's like, if your base compensation is $250,000 and you have another $250,000 of RSUs vesting this year and potentially into the future, your new number is 500. Now your idea of your compensation has doubled, yet that's not actual compensation. That's tied to a stock price. So if you leave that company, your income's going back down to 250 unless you make I was going to say 1031 exchange. Yeah, you make a 1031 exchange from Amazon to Apple. Like, that's great.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So, awesome. You had a liquidity event. The housing purchase is such a big decision. It's so important. It's so emotional. So, I'm happy to talk to you about that decision. It's it's a big one.
So let's change the scenario slightly, though. Okay, maybe it's a vacation home. You mentioned kind of briefly in passing a place upstate. You're in Palm Springs right now.
Upstate,
right?
Palm Springs, yeah.
Upstate, yeah. Palm
Springs is upstate New York. It's actually faster to get to Palm Springs.
Might as well be.
On a Friday night on BQE, it's faster to get to Palm Springs. But what if it's a vacation home? Because I think there's a different bit of economics there, right? Because you have if you're not owning a home, you're renting, right? You need a place to live. You need a primary residence. So you got to stay somewhere. There are, we debate this every year on our webinar. You argue team buy, I argue team rent. There are pros and cons either. I think the vacation home piece gets a little bit trickier, though, because you're not going to you don't need a vacation home, contrary to popular belief. That's a hot take here, folks. Okay, you don't actually need a vacation home. I know. Cancel me. Okay. I agree with you. But I think a lot of people end up buying their vacation homes first because they want to own something. They have this liquidity event, or they've saved. And, if you're in New York, LA, San Francisco, Austin, Denver, let's keep adding to the quote unquote unaffordable housing cities.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't afford to buy something in the neighborhood that you want, that's close to your job and close to the schools or whatever. So you're like, I want to buy something. There. Yeah. So let's rent, let's have a primary residence rent, and let's go buy something that's going to be our family vacation home. We do a lot of what's called life planning at Brooklyn FI. It's like, what do you want out of life? And the most common answer that I used to see when I was doing this all the time was, I want a place where I can invite my friends and loved ones a couple times a year, and I just want to be able to see everybody and share my beautiful space with them, whether that was a little cabin or whatever. So I love that idea. Let's buy the vacation home first. It's maybe a little bit cheaper. It's definitely a luxury. Like, you don't need it.
Yeah. But I have clients that are listening to this podcast right now, AJ, and they're going to email me because you told them they can buy a vacation home. So let's back it up.
Guys, I'm the more fun. Everyone knows I'm the more fun planner.
Let's back it up slightly.
Okay.
Because part of the equation.
All right. No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, part of the equation, though, is the other part of this question was what amount of time do I need to spend there to make it worth it?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Okay, that's a good question.
Do you want to talk about that?
I do. I do want to talk about that. Let's also do away with the myth that you're going to rent out your vacation home. That's not real. I'm sorry. Your vacation home is your vacation home that you want to be in and you want to fill with your beautiful things. That's fine. That is an expense that might end up being a good investment long-term when you sell it in 30 years, but it is not a rental property. If you want to go into rental property and be a landlord, that is different. That can be something that you cash flow, that you're not precious about, that you're not going to buy your beautiful $5,000 couch in and put in. So I just wanted everyone, let's just do away with that. This dream of it's our vacation home and we're going to be there a couple of weeks a year and then we're also going to cash flow it and it's going to be an Airbnb. There are people that can pull that off. It is very difficult to do that. And have your cake and eat it too, right? Have the beautiful home, but also, cover your costs or whatever. So that's number one. Okay, so how much time do you need to spend in your home to make it worth it? I don't know, man. At least 6 weekends a year is my minimum threshold. That was what I used. Am I going to be able to go to this place 6 weekends a year at minimum to enjoy it? And if the answer is no, then folks, you're not ready for a vacation home. You should try Airbnbs. You should travel to different cities. Like there needs to be one place it's going to be easy enough for you to get there. And are you actually going to be able to spend time there? And I remember sitting down with beloved long-term clients and then being like, nope, it was only 4 weeks, so we're not doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah, I think, I go back and forth because it's also yes, it is nice if you can spend that time there, if you can make sure you have those weeks. But then I also say okay, well, you only get so many weeks off a year. And thankfully some of us work remote. We can, you can be a little bit more mobile, hybrid or hybrid setups. But, do you also want to commit to spending the bulk of your time off at one place in one small town in upstate New York? Not too far from the water.
Look, it's lovely up there. It's truly lovely.
It is lovely. It's lovely. We've done some
retreats
retreats up there. It's beautiful. Don't get me wrong, okay?
Yeah.
But are you willing to commit, And a lot of people who are thinking about this, okay, clients that are in this spot, oftentimes, maybe they just started a family, they have young kids, they want to start making memories outside the city, right? Mm-hmm. And I hear that. And I was lucky where I grew up. I had a lake that I could go over to in the summer, and I spent my summers at that lake, and I have wonderful memories of that, and I cherish that. Don't get me wrong, okay? Yeah. But I'm also mindful that these folks also.
Is this Lake Winnipesaukee?
No. This is
Right.
That's the lake that AJ and I always talk about in New Hampshire, folks. You have to go ahead and be mindful that those kids are also going to maybe want to go to the ocean. They might want to go to Disney. You might want to take them to Europe at some point. All those sorts of things. These are all times that you're not going to be spending at this house. Yeah. And so is it really worth it to commit to it? Or do you just have a kind of crazy Airbnb budget where you're going to YOLO for a couple weeks out of the year and you're going to escape upstate? And guess what? When you pull out of that driveway and go back to the city, you don't have to think about it. You don't have to pay a damn thing anymore. You're done.
Totally. I mean, that's why this is a debate, right? That's why you and I debate this every year.
Yeah.
Like, I could sit here and tell you 10 amazing reasons why buying this Palm Springs house was the best investment and best decision I ever made. And I could also tell you 10 reasons why it was the worst, easily. And I honestly don't even know which way I fall. I had my hot water heater replaced last week for $2,300 and it's still leaking. That sucks, But I love having this escape. It's interesting, talking about the feelings part of owning something and optionality. Yeah. My husband and I went to a wedding a couple weeks ago in Northern California, and we were like, oh, let's do, let's drive. It was in Santa Cruz. Let's drive around Napa and we'll stay in this place. And we were like, we have a vacation home in California. Let's go to the vacation home that we're paying for, that we have a mortgage on. So, and it was fine. And we did, and it was great. But it was that we are going to not have this new, different experience. We're going to keep returning to this place. So I think it's a very personal decision. And, go ahead.
It's a bit what is important to you? Are you a person who goes to a restaurant, your favorite restaurant, and orders the same thing on the menu every single time? Or are you a person that's always let me try something new? What about this? What about that? Because that,
And hopefully you and your spouse are aligned. Sometimes we see this, right? We see one person who's like, I want the vacation house and I want to go travel the world. So, someone's going to lose out in that debate. Anything else on vacation homes? I'm trying to think. Have the liquidity event, buy the property. Don't buy something that, this is an important one. I need you to spend at least a week there in 2 different seasons before you buy the home.
2 different seasons.
2 different seasons, right? We got to do upstate New York. We love in the summer. It's beautiful. In the winter, it's also beautiful, but it is cold and it is dark. And you have to shovel your driveway and it is remote. And if your power goes out, your heater goes out and you have nowhere else to go. Anyway.
Yeah. And Sasquatch will come and get you probably in the middle of the night. And so you have to be mentally prepared for that.
Correct. I will not be in a house upstate alone ever because I am terrified of things that go bump in the night. Which is everything. Okay, so it's the year of 2024 is coming to a close.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yes. That's a good segue there. Okay. Segue of the year, folks. AJ didn't drink the coffee because she was too distracted by the barista, but okay. Continue.
I was too busy batting my eyelashes to actually drink the coffee.
Oh, me? This coat? Anyway.
Me for me.
Hi.
Yes.
Oh
Okay, it's the end of the year. We've done a lot of tax planning. John, by the way, folks, John is a great follow on LinkedIn if you're not already doing that. He's got lots of insights, most of which I've written for him, but they're really good insights nonetheless. Anyway,
Wow.
year-end tax planning season is over. Hopefully you've maxed out all your retirement accounts. If you haven't, it's a great time to do your 529 contributions, folks, for our college savings accounts in New York State. You get a $5,000 deduction from your taxable income per spouse.
Bam, 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 bam.
Bam, 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 bam. That has to happen by 12/31. So you have a couple weeks to do that. Even if you're not going to college, even if your kids aren't going to college, it's a good idea, no matter what. What else can we do that's easy before the end of the year?
You can do charitable gifting if you haven't done that yet.
Yep.
Still time by December 31st. I used to prepare. Thankfully, I don't prepare a lot of tax returns anymore, AJ, but I used to. And you'd be amazed at the number of receipts that I would get. There'd be like 12/31, 4 p.m., 12/31, 5 p.m. email printout, that would come through. And you're like, people wait till the last minute.
That's fine. Everyone waits till the last minute to do everything. And I think as a society,
law is that kind of like Parkinson's law? Parkinson's law is like it takes as much time as you have to do it. But like if you have till the last minute, it doesn't take long. Then you're just gonna wait till then and then do it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, John, you are the only person in you and my husband are the only people who actually do things like when you receive them, like on time.
Ahead of time.
Yeah, literally the only two people I've ever met. Two very important people who I'm very grateful to have.
So Nabil runs a record label, and I run Brooklyn FI because we can both anti-crastinate in essence.
I like to surround myself with people that are better than me. What else? FSAs. Okay, so if you chose a health plan, we've got HSAs, which are great. That's your tax advantage.
You can keep your money in them. You don't need to use HSA money before the end of the year.
We love HSAs if you have a high deductible plan. However, what's probably more common is the FSA. And these are the flexible spending accounts. What does FSA stand for?
Flexible spending account, yes.
Okay, great. Still got it.
Okay.
FSA dollars, you lose them by the end of the year. So if you've got money in them, if you haven't spent it on therapy, drugs, whatever, you need to spend it now before the end of the year. Luckily, some genius person, I wish I had thought of this, created a business called FSAstore.com. This podcast should be sponsored by FSA.
It's not, we're not, but in theory.
You can buy a ton of shit that you're going to use anyway. Sunglasses. You can buy fancy sunglasses with your FSA. Contact solution, Band-Aids, Advil, ice packs. What else?
Have I seen recently that like workout equipment is FSHSA eligible? Is that like a thing?
It might be. I mean, that would be a good thing for Peloton to lobby.
I was going to say, I just bought Peloton. I could have swore I saw things like that. So I could be mistaken. Yeah,
I mean, the definitions for health spending are quite broad here. Yeah. So double check, but FSAstore.com is basically everything on that site is approved. So if you have not used all that money yet, please do, because you will lose it.
If I go to the bar and eat a dozen wings and drink a pitcher of beer for my mental health, is that an FSA eligible expense? I don't know. Landmark tax case. Okay, I'll fight it. Let's find out.
Let's get the private letter ruling on that one for you, John.
PLR. Can I write this off?
Okay, wait. In all seriousness, it's the end of the year. Like, how do you have any like rituals or personal or professional things you do to like close out the year and prepare for the new one?
Yes. So I'll start off this weekend.
Oh God, here we go.
Eating my body weight in homemade pierogies and that my father makes and cookies. Yeah. So I normally start off with that because you got to kind of hit a low in order to reach new highs. So a couple things. I am a meticulous budgeter. I want to say budgeter, tracker of spending. And so I can tell you exactly how much money I've spent this year, each month, by category, that sort of thing. And so I will close my books, my personal books on the year to see my breakdown of spending, saving, and taxes, and I like to look at those percentages, essentially, and understand that. So I do that every year to just get an understanding. Hey, am I spending more? Every year you spend a little bit more money, but understanding how I spent and what that looks like. So do that. I also spent some time kind of thinking about goals for the new year. So this year, I had a goal to lose some weight, try to be a little bit healthier. I lost a little bit, not as much as I would have liked, but still, some progress there. So I want to continue a lot of the stuff that I started this year, but hopefully with kind of a fresh, some renewed energy in the new year. I think there is like a little bit of momentum that comes from that. So there are a couple things on my mind. What about you?
Yeah, I also meticulously track my spending, so I look forward. Yeah, I mean, bookkeeping to me is so fun. Like, I love categorizing transactions, and like I look at my spending for the year. It tells me that I spend too much money every year. So surprise, surprise.
No surprise.
I don't spend more than I make, but this year we came pretty close. What else do I do? I mean, I have a lot of personal reflecting to do on this year. I mean, this year was a big year of change for me personally. I took a big step back from Brooklyn FI. You stepped into that role to run this company. You know, I basically gave myself a lot of time back, and I think I squandered a lot of it, honestly. I felt a little useless and aimless this year, just being real with y'all. And I did feel like I feel like I don't have a lot to show for all the time that I got back. So my big project over the next 2 to 3 weeks really is like some like deep soul searching and like goal setting. Like, what do I want to accomplish now that I do have time? And a lot of those goals are going to be related to Brooklyn FI and growing the firm and, you know, helping everyone who runs the firm. But I got to figure out what the fuck I'm going to do with my life, John. That's what I'm going to spend the next 2 weeks doing.
You're going to figure that out in the next 2 to 3 weeks? Wow.
I give myself
that should be a podcast episode. 2 to 3 weeks to change your life. AJ's going to tell you.
But one thing I want to say is I need accountability, right? I'm good at doing things when I have a deadline. I'll do them at the last possible second. You're a good accountability partner. Sometimes I do ignore you though, because
she does, folks. Shocking.
So I'm going on this retreat with a few other people. It's not early. It's like end of January, and that's going to be kind of like a goal setting, soul searching. It's with a couple other financial planners who are in similar roles. And I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm actually doing like all this, like I'm saying I'm going to solve myself in 3 weeks. I'm like doing all this prep and soul searching for this. And then I'll have accountability with these other people who are going to say, here, these are all the things that you said you were going to accomplish. Because this year I had no accountability. And I think that was part of the problem.
I mean, but let's celebrate the wins. You played 100 rounds of golf.
Yes, I did do that. I did play 100 rounds of golf. Actually, I played 100
And the goal was to play more golf.
Yes, that's true. I did do that. And I got good at golf, which is hard. But
and you sent me a lot fewer 6:30 a.m. Slack messages this year. Okay.
That is true. That's a win for everyone.
For everyone involved, okay? AJ and
to
I
be
used
fair,
to...
you also send me 6:30 a.m. Slack messages.
Absolutely, and I'm going to continue to. So we're not talking about working on me right now. We're talking about working on you. Please, you know. But that's a win. And so I think it is hard when you take a step back, when you change roles. Listen, I changed roles too this year. It was an adjustment. It's still an adjustment. Yeah. There are growing pains, there are adjustments. You got to let go of certain things. You got to embrace new things. It's a big change. And so I want to acknowledge that too. And those are hard things to navigate. I think especially the older we all get. And I know it's weird to say that as we're both in our 30s here, but like change gets harder the older you get, and how you kind of feel like, oh well, this is kind of comfortable, this is kind of a routine, that sort of thing, and you got to deal with it. Yeah.
My friends and I have been talking about eras of stable eras and chaotic eras. Have you ever seen The Three Body Problem, read it or watched the show?
I've not, no.
Highly recommend. It's like kind of like high concept science fiction. It's great. Okay. And there's this part of the plot is that there's these eras of like chaos and stability. And in the chaos era, literally like the sun burns up the entire planet and everyone dies. It's like literally chaos.
Okay. That didn't happen this year.
So
there's been a few close calls.
But there have been a few minor periods of chaos. So I think maybe my 2025 goal is going to be to prepare better for those chaotic eras and know that they will come and be a little bit more.
It's not like you can control and prevent them sometimes.
Exactly. You can sort of try to predict them, but you cannot prevent them. So just having a better baseline. Yeah, I mean, we're financial planners. We like goals, right? I feel like I know.
And we
goals.
like planning to get there and steps and what are we going to do.
Personal goals. I'm looking forward to 2025. I think 2024 was a mixed bag. Rocky first half, felt better in the second quarter or whatever. Football. I lost fantasy football.
Shocking. So you are in last place officially, I believe?
I think so, yes.
So that means that AJ is going to be sent somewhere by Shane that she doesn't know. She'll just get sent the ticket when she gets to the airport.
Literal nightmare.
So we'll see.
I already have anxiety about it.
Where in the world is Allie Jane Ayers? We will find out in 2025, folks.
All right, folks, you've been a fantastic audience. We relaunched the podcast. That happened this year.
We relaunched, we're back.
We did. John, it's always great to see your face. Always great to catch up with you. Yeah. Listeners, thank you for being awesome. Thank you for sending us your questions. Happy end of 2024. We will see you in 2025. That's all we have for you. See you next year.
Bye, everybody.